Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Tuesday. It's September 10th. This will be our chart lesson for today, and kind of a wild and crazy day. A lot of mixed trading. We started out trading up, then traded down, and then ended up trading up and closing higher for the day. We didn't close on the high, but we closed fairly close to it. We did close considerably higher than well, I wouldn't say considerably, but we did close higher than yesterday. Of course, this is the daily chart, so it may not look like we closed that much further, but it looks like we closed. Let's just get an idea here. 20, 18 or 20 points, not much. So uh, we did close higher, and it looks like it ends up looking like a bullish day, but it doesn't look like anything like that really on the uh, intraday chart, the 2000 tick chart, because we sold off first, and so we did have a nice rally in the end, but it was up and down, and then we just happened to close higher. So let's flip over that chart. There's not a lot of trades today, not easy trading. There just weren't many setups, a lot of quick reversals and so forth. And then when the market does move, it moves really fast and strong. And so it's not there were not a lot of setups today. So, but let's flip over there and take a look. And you can see we spent most of the day looking like it was going to be a range, and then we sold off here. And this ends up failing on a failed breakout. And we rallied. And this is a really strong rally, but there just wasn't a lot of opportunity to enter it. There just weren't any setups. And the next thing you know, it's 230, and we closed near the high. We did break out of the top up here and fail, of course, after 230, but there's just not, you can see I got a lot of greens in here, and there's a few trades, but there just aren't many. But let's zoom in a bit and go through the trades. And 7 o'clock came as we're rallying up through here, and there's just no way to enter this really. I don't see anything that I like here. There is a two-legged pull back here, but this is more sideways. It looks really congested. There's just not a lot of room back to those highs right there. I'm curious how much there actually is. You see, there's not even enough room to scalp out really. So it would have worked, but I think it's too risky. It's just too congested and sideways. And we do break out here and fail. And this makes a 2-bar Batchin' high with a fairly bearish bar, but that's the first close outside, so we could, odds are you're going to come back to the trend line, but you may not. That's the problem. And so, could you mark this trade? Yeah, it would definitely be green. It's definitely risky. I mean, this is a fairly strong uptrend. There was a break way down here in the overnight, but a lot of times when you get a break like that early in the overnight session, it'll start touching the trend line and respecting it again. And so sometimes you can ignore these early breaks during the overnight. Not always, but it's just something to think about and something to be aware of. And it looks like we're going to get back in. So it's too dangerous to go long here, but it's not such a good idea to go short either. But maybe you take that trade with a 2-bar matching high. I will say we tried to go higher twice here. We're not really looking for a reversal yet. And this is not necessarily congestion because you don't have that real small body bar. This one is close, and there are 4 bars there. But we did try to go higher once, twice, and this probably trapped some people. I didn't like it in real time. I'm not going to mark it. I mean, you might argue for it to be green. You can see it would have got almost 2.5 points, but you have to go through all this stuff here, baby. You got to hold on through some of that. I didn't like it in real time, and so I won't mark it. We did come back here and start up again, get a close outside, and we actually bounced again, but there's a possible setup here. We actually broke lower than turned and went out the other side and closed. You can't really trade that on the engulfing bar. This does close higher, so a break above it you might go long. It just looks really congested again, and we're closing below the EMA, so it could tick up and turn down on you. We do have a break and new low in place, and there's a lot of support right there, so maybe you take that. I think you wait on the higher low and you don't get a setup here. And next thing you know, at their top, again, you don't have a setup, so you see if maybe you get a lower high. You do, and again, you don't get a setup. And it runs down, you get a failed breakout. And you're always better off to wait on the higher low here. But I talk about these all the time. Sometimes if you're going to be aggressive, this might be where you do it because these turn out to be important lows. Didn't happen today, but still you could have, if you catch this trade, I mean, you know, you probably ride it to the top at 6.5 points. So it's worth considering. I will say this, it gaps over there and just keeps going. So you probably would have had to drop a limit order, and I don't think you would have got filled. Maybe it seems like I don't, but if I remember right, I don't think you would get filled on this. I mark it. Your chart might have been a little different. You might have got a chance to get in, but it is a little aggressive. So you're better off to wait on that higher low, and we never get one. And then we get multiple tests up here. You got a triple test, but again, this is your signal bar, and it's not any good. I don't think you can enter here. It's too late. And next thing you know, we're dropping like a rock again. But you do have a trend down to break, move to a new low, and it looks like 2 legs down. And then you make a higher low here. It's a relatively big bar, 19 ticks, but you still got a long way back to the EMA, and it looks like a trap reversal. I like going long on that one. It's a quick, easy move. It is a big bar, so if you skipped it for that reason, I would understand why. And you're not going to get a much better entry. That's the thing. The best moves, you don't get a chance to drop a limit order back here and try to get a better entry. That's the problem with trying to do it. Sometimes that works, but the best entries just keep going. I mean, they just zoom off, and you don't get a chance at that. So by waiting and trying to do that, a lot of times you're going to miss the best trades. So be aware of that. Runs up here again. We get a 2-bar matching high, but it's just a first entry, and you really need a bearish bar. So by the time this closes, it's got a big stem down there. Maybe it still closes in the lower 1/3, but with it just being a first entry, because I wouldn't count this as a first entry. This is just a new low, so it's just a first entry, and boom, the bottom just falls out of it. It's a shame you can't catch that trade because that is a very nice move. And it doesn't even give you another chance to enter. And then, of course, you bounce down here where you bounced previously. And then you do get a higher low here. It looks a little congested, so I did mark it green. This is real close to being blue. I tend to like it. If it breaks above that little 2-bar matching high, it's probably going to at least get to the EMA. And you can see that's pretty much what it did. You got a break. It goes up and it makes a new high by 1 tick and turns it down. And you do get a lower high on this one, but it's just a first entry, and you got a little double bottom, almost a triple test across there, and so I'm not crazy about going short right there. I mean, we just came off the lows, so there's a good chance we're going the other direction. I notice that we do end up going the other direction, but it would have worked. But I'll tell you in real time, I did not like it. I would not take it, so I'm not even going to mark it green. And then we get another one of those reversal types right here. Gets that little trap, but again, you got to go along right into the EMA. It looks a little congested. You got those bars with no bodies. They're definitely working sideways. And again, it gaps up there. So you don't really get a chance to enter. It just takes off. And so I don't think you can enter there. And then you get a little trap here as well. But again, you can't trade this on the engulfing bar. And by the time this closes, you've already got the break in a new high. And this bar is like 21 ticks. So it's just too risky. Of course, it runs up and it makes a new high, and then it reverses. And again, this looks just too congested, and there's too much stem here. You might say, okay, can I enter on this bar? Well, technically it is a second entry because I don't think you count this as an entry. This is a low here, so you get a first entry. Second entry, and when it does break below that, now you have to ride this out, but you wouldn't have got stopped out. So could you enter there? Yes, by all means. And you do have a 2-bar matching high there, so I will mark that green. And you're a good bit away from the EMA there. It's just not an ideal setup. It's not a horrible setup, but it's not an ideal setup. So, and then no entries anywhere in here, long or short. That's just a first entry, and we bounced there previously, but there's not a triple test or anything. And then this is all too congested. It looks like we're reversing, but it's hard to know. It does take on eye there, but you don't have a setup, and you're working up. And finally, you get a second entry long. You do get a break of your trend line here, but you've got enough room to scalp out. So I like going long there. And then you would hope you could get a short up here, but you don't really get a setup. Now, somewhat like this one, and it is kind of a repeat pattern from another one up here somewhere. Where was it? Right here, I think. This was a repeat pattern somewhere over here. I saw it at least once, maybe twice today. But there's not a whole lot of room back to the EMA. I think what you want to do is say, okay, let's see if we get a reversal here. And sure enough, you get a reversal that confirms that trend line. So I like entering right there. That's the safer place. And it turns out to be a pretty good move. Then you get another two-legged swing back. Now this is, you don't get it by the counts, you don't get a second entry here, but there is a hidden second entry that's much more advanced. Most of you shouldn't be fooling with that. But maybe you take that trade because you do, that's the first break of this clear channel down. So you would expect a retest of the low, and this thing just starts another trend down, really. And so if you did take this, it pays off fairly handsomely for you. If you try for a runner, that is. And then we chop sideways, and again, no real chance to enter that. And this is all too congested. And so you get a break here and a couple of legs down. It looks like we're going to reverse. You end up getting a 1, 2, 3 triple test, and this is a nice signal bar. So I like going short there. And there's that lower high again, but I wouldn't take it here. I think it would have worked, and the bar qualifies, but you can see you got 2 points there. I mean, since it is a reversal, this is a second entry short here, and this would just be a lower high. And since it's a repeat pattern, maybe you take that one. I mean, it's tempting to go long there too. I just don't know that you do go long there. It's a second entry long, so I mean, you could argue for that but you know, when you're sitting here short already or looking to get short, it's sometimes hard to reverse gears right there. But if you ignored these shorts and you're watching it and you see the second entry long, you know, you're away from the EMA, there's a good chance it pulls back. It's not ideal, but it's a possibility. Now we do set up another reversal here where you would expect one to happen, but I didn't like this one because of all the congestion. And you see it does come back. It snaps back. That's what you're afraid of because it may stop you out. It doesn't, but was it worth taking that for that? I just don't think so. And you actually get a second entry here, but the signal bar just doesn't qualify. It looks like it closes right in the middle, basically, to me, or a tick off the middle. So it's definitely not the upper 1/3. It's really tempting, and it would have worked out great, but it's just not a great setup. You know, if you took it, then you know, like I said, it's a second entry at the key entry point. It hadn't really been confirmed. That's really the first touch. It doesn't get confirmed to here, and you only get a first entry here and a poor signal bar again. I mean, just weren't many setups today. I mean, here's a perfect second entry, and you don't get a signal bar. So, anyway, then you come back and you get a first entry, second entry right here, but we're not anywhere close back to the trend line, so I think you have to sit tight. And of course, it does fail, and it gives you a triple test here, and it does come back to the trend line, and it runs a bunch of stops of people that got long. And so it's probably going to reverse here and take off again after it ran everybody's stops. And so I like going long there. You get your break, move to a new low, and it bounces right off the key entry point. So I like that one. Here we get 2 swings back, but there's your second entry long, and so this would be a third entry. Again, this is tempting, but you just don't have much room there, and it's always too risky if you don't have room. But of course, it doesn't matter because it works, but it won't always work. It'll stop you out and then go where you think it's supposed to go. So you got to be real careful. And then we're just chopping sideways here. I don't see anything until the breakout here, and this is your signal bar, so no setup again. It runs on up, no setups there, and then you're chopping along, and finally you get a triple test here, and you get a signal bar that'll qualify, and you got room, so I like that one. It comes back here, but when it closed 3 times below that midline, don't go long right there, because this is what will happen to you, stop you out, and it'll end up going where you thought it would, but it'll stop you out first. And so don't go long right there. And then I wouldn't go long right there, and you really couldn't go long on that one, and it does take off, and that takes you into 230. So unfortunately, it's just one of those days where and this was a nice trend up, but there just weren't a lot of opportunities. So you're going to have days like that. It's the way this thing works. And some days are easier than others. I believe it was yesterday that we had a fairly readable day with some good setups that most anybody could find. Today, not so much. It's a little bit harder. Actually, quite a bit harder. So, but anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. We had a long video yesterday, so I'm going to keep this one a little shorter. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.